Crazies Volume 2. Biden stores today. Hello, crazy people. It's the crazy one again. Back at it. Back out in crazy land. So I'm in the midst of loading my car down for work for tomorrow. So I'm done. And for those of you that don't know, I just got started a new job, and I'm making a good bit more money than I have per se. So that's a very uplifting thing. In addition to that, I'm doing sub work, which is a lot more than hourly, and which means I got a lot less bullshit to deal with and a lot less people to deal with. So that's fantastic news for me. And so that's where we're at. So, crazies. Let me share with you my stories of crazies. As I've mentioned before, I've got quite extensive history, you could say knowledge, because I've dealt with so many crazies and been in and out of so many rehabs institutions. Like I said, I've been dealing with this shit since I was in second grade, since I was like 7 or 8 years old. In and out of doctor's offices, taking tests, having those monitors hooked up to your brain. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, they did that shit at a very young age with me. I can remember doing all kind of brain tests and stuff. And I don't even know what they still do that stuff if, I'm going back in the 70s. So they may have upgraded or whatnot. They may not even be a thing anymore. Hell, you could probably take a chip and it would do everything. But anyways, don't let me get off the subject. So crazies. As I mentioned before, I have a great deal of knowledge when it deals with crazy people. And as I was discussing on the last video, the first place that I went to was a crazy farm, right? Full of crazy people. And the most entertaining part of the whole ordeal. Alright, damn dogs. The most entertainment you could get is to be in a classroom full of crazies, okay? Now, I know this has got to be public knowledge, and a lot of people know about AA, NA, SA, Sex Anonymous, etc. And they all go around the same kind of ideology. A lot of it's like 12-step program. A lot of it is your higher power. All these people are crazy people are being led and directed in a certain format, if you will, okay? So a lot of these tests and things they talked about and things I read, they were all very familiar. I had seen the same type of shit, just on different levels. But the first class that I actually ever went to was like a discuss in that hospital, and I kind of got touch basis on it, what it was like, but not the whole gist of it. Okay, so I walk into this room, and I'm now about to be in my first official crazy class. And I'm 15. I'm not petrified. I'm not scared, but I'm not comfortable either. I'm not frightened, but I'm timid, I'm in a room full of mentally unstable adults. There was very few kids that were younger. I was the youngest in there. And so it was it was quite an ordeal to be um, exposed to that, right? Imagine being 15 years old and being in a room full of nutheads, nutsos, crazy people. I've seen some bizarre, out of this world shit. That shit, you can't make this shit up. For instance, I slightly discussed on that most of the men were, oh, and I had seen this time and time again after this, but this was the first time being exposed to it. But a lot of the men, and most of the men, were like children, like grown adults playing with Barbie dolls and G.I. Joe figures. And I'm not even exaggerating. And so this was the kind of shit that I would see at this place. And you come into the room and you sit down and you go around the classroom one by one. Hi, my name is Mike. I'm an addict. Hi, Mike. How you doing? That's just like an inside joke. That's what they do in AA and NA. But it was somewhat similar, somewhat familiar. Like I said, a lot of these places and organizations, they tend to have the same format per se. So you go around, and this stood firm for every Looney Group class I was in from here until you go around the room one by one. Hi, my name is Mike. I'm suicidal. Hi, my name is Jane. I like to chop up Barbie dolls' heads off. Hi, my name's Rick. I like to dissect frogs. My name's Peter. I like to stick Coke bottles up my butt. My name is Katrina, and I do kind of weird shit. I mean, there was a array of different people in different situations, and I wish I could have had a clipboard and a video camera, because it was like I said, it was never a dull moment. From 1 minute to the next, you got grown women that are like grown women in a kid's mind, right? When I say kids, I mean like a 3 or 4 year old, not even a 10-year-old. I mean, some of these girls are like saying, I need to go to the bathroom, and they're pissing and shitting on themselves and don't know no better. And like, it was just some of the wildest shit I'd ever seen, people and shit and pissing on themselves right in the middle group. People raising their hands, grown-ass men and women, and acting like 2 and 3 year olds. Oh, please, oh, me, pick me, no. And I heard some of these crazy people talking about their other them, okay? One thing I had come to realize and learn, like I said, from dealing with a lot of crazies on all kind of fronts and levels, is I've also got to be around a lot of people that are schizophrenic and bipolar. So, like I said, I was in and out of so many rehabs and institutions and mental facilities that there's only a certain amount of crazy, right? You got your depressed, you got your suicidal, you got your mentally deranged, you got your criminally insane, you're mentally insane, you're sexually insane, you're a murderous, criminally insane. See what I'm getting at? So all these people in all these groups through all these years, there was always like something familiar about them from what they replicated from the last Candy or Steve or John that I met. Someone like them, and in my earlier days. These, like I said, I'd been in and out of these groups and institutions from the age of 15, and it rolls over in jail too, in those kind of facilities, in and out until my 40s. And when you go to jail in places of this nature, you're going to have a lot of people. You're going to have a lot of the same. People that go to jail and prison are not the most mentally sane by definition, by whatever. So, like I said, I've seen all kind of crazies, and the most kind of crazies that I ever seen were in these little groups, were in these little classes. Hi, my name's Mike. Hi, my name's Gina. Hi, my name's Terry, Steve, John. And when people go and introduce themselves, They tell a little bit about themselves, and that's where it gets interesting. That's where it's really flavorful, right? So, from being in this place, and I mentioned before, I went from this one hospital to permanent resident rehab, and from there wind up going to state mental hospital. But during all that, I met, like I discussed, hundreds of different crazy people, and have seen so much shit through that year, that 8 months. It's a book in itself. Every day, imagine every single day, right? You go to a room and say on average there's about 10 to 15 people. Imagine there's 10 to 15 people and each one of them's a different kind of crazy, right? 10, picture that, 10 to 15 different kind of people, different kind of chemical makeups, all got one thing in common, all crazy as fuck. So, at that bitter young age at 15, I learned how to make do. I learned what I needed to say and how I had to act to get around the system, to get by. Every single one of these type of places, you work on a merit system. I've discussed this a little bit before, right? So, like, you have to earn everything. You have to earn using a phone call. You've got to earn watching TV on Friday night. On Friday nights, they would have a movie. Just like you're a little kid, they treat you like just like you're a little kid. You know what I'm saying? You have to do chores and you have to voice your opinion. You have to be open in these meetings, right? You have to be like showing that you're, working on yourself. So, with watching all these other people working on themselves, it used to tickle me. I used to get tickled. I used to try to, make it a scenario where this ain't so bad. Look at Sally over there. Look at Tommy over there. He's got his finger in his ass. Look at Steve over there. Wow, I'm like, damn. And the first place I was in, like I said, it was mixed from 15 to 50. Blind, drunk, or crazy. 18 to 80. Blind, drunk. How's it going? Anyways, you know what I'm saying. But like I said, I learned to find it humorous, because if you're not laughing, you're crying, right? And so I used to have these little, games with myself where I'm making fun of people and putting tags on them and shit. I put a label on every different kind of crazy there is, because, like I said, there's only so many crazy. So every different place and every different meeting and every different building I went to, it was like starting all over again. At every single one of these places, except the first place was the hospital. But once I went to rehab, and I went to 3 of them and 2 mental institutions, they all had like several buildings, okay? So imagine like a big compound, and like there's like 10 buildings, and each building is got, they're all spread apart, separated by, like I said, age. Usually it was usually by age, and it was sometimes by gender, but it wasn't always by gender. The only time it separated by gender is when we'd sleep. Wherever I was, wherever I was, in every one of these places, the girls of my age would be in the same building as me, but they'd be on the other end of the hall. They'd be on the other end of the place, the building. It was always separated like that, for the plain, simple facts of, guys and girls aren't getting together, and it happened anyways. There's always going to be people that sneak around and get shit done. It was all the time guys and girls getting caught doing the nasty in places they shouldn't have been. And these were some of the times and places that I got to see people locked up, subdued, hog-tied, strapped down. They call it Dr. Strong on your ass. And I've seen people have to get wrapped up in every way, shape, form, and figurine you could possibly imagine. I've seen it. And that's not a joking None of that's funny. But the classes were funny. I used to amuse myself with Sally sticking her Barbie doll up her coochie, and Steve's over there playing with himself. I mean, this is not exaggeration. This shit really happens in these places. And so, from the first place I was regular style hospital. Like I said, it was an actual hospital with a fifth floor, with a crazy floor. The second place I went to was pretty much split apart. Like I said, I was close to my age in this one building, but all the other buildings were full of crazy people too. They were mainly adults, right? So you're in one secured building, okay? All the guys and girls in there, and the people that keep an eye on you, the orderlies and all that shit. Well, every meal, 3 times a day, you have to leave the building that you're locked down in, and you go to the cafeteria. So every one of these buildings has got to eat lunch in close to the same time. So I'm saying, like, building 1 is at 11:30, building 2 is 11:45, 12. I mean, it was timed out. So every day I would see a lot of the same crazy adults, and we would eat lunch at the same time. It was a huge cafeteria, and you got to think there's like 8 to 10 buildings, and I got to say at least 20 to 30 people per building. So you could imagine how many people had to eat lunch and dinner and breakfast. There was a line a mile long. From as soon as we walked out of our crazy house, there was a line from there all the way to the cafeteria, and the cafeteria was about, see where that greenhouse is? You see that mailbox? See the house back there? You see that gray that gray car? From here to that BMW was the line that I had to stand every morning, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And while you're standing in line, you're seeing adults that are crazy. You're seeing all that shit. And like I discussed before, crazy as it sounds and was, but the older the people got, the more immature they seemed to be. It was insane. Like the building I was in was adolescents. I was 15, so it was 15, 16, 17-year-olds. We weren't, grown and mature or nothing, but everyone in my entire building seemed to be a little more together than the adult buildings, if you can catch my drift. So it was a show. Lunch was a show, breakfast was a show, dinner was a show. It was literally a show. Imagine being like some comic strip and they're making fun of crazy people. This is kind of the mentality you would have to put yourself into, from either smiling or crying. So I always choose to try to look at the bright side of things. So instead of internalizing and be hurt over it, I would turn it around and look at other people and judge other people and make fun of them. It made me feel better, Not saying it's right or wrong, just saying that's how it was for me. So, like I said, we would have a shit show, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Every single freaking meal, there was one adult that was getting out of line. There was food fights all the time, and food fights were fun. You're seeing a bunch of grown adults, throwing a temper tantrum, and they're trying to do like they do in jail. People are trying to swap out my milk for your orange juice, my bagel for your biscuit, this kind of stuff, right? So you got, in these kind of groups of people, you're always going to have a lot of the same kind of people. You have your bully, you have your pushover, you have your guy that'll take it to any level. And then you got the opposite. You got people that stand up to bullies. So there's confliction. There's always going to be confliction. And watching the confliction always goes down at the chow hall and in the meetings. In the meetings, like I discussed, you go around in a circle. Each person introduces themselves. These meetings are constantly changing, right? People are constantly coming and going. People are constantly coming. People are constantly being graduated, leaving. Insurance run out. There's all kind of different reasons why. But like I said, you'll be in a group, and it'll change out weekly. Every week there'll be one person coming and one person going. It's just how it is. It's the same kind of deal in jail. So you're meeting a new kind of crazy on the daily, pretty much. And if I could only just had a video recorder and shown you lunchtime in the crazy cafeteria, some of the best comical skits I've ever seen, even to this day. When you got people that are not pretending, not acting, they really are fucking crazy. The shit they do. I can't even put into words some of the shit I saw. I mean, people getting disgusting, food fight, people rubbing themselves with food. I mean, kids, like I said, grown adults acting like children. And you got women in there and they're feeding their doll. They're trying to breastfeed their doll. I've seen it all, I'm telling you. You got sickos in there trying to stick stuff down their pants. There's no limit to crazy in these places. There's, like I said before, there's every facet of life. And you want to talk about being amazed and being shocked. I got to a point in my mid-30s where the shock factor was dead. I had been to enough jails, rehabs, and institutions where you couldn't shock me anymore. It wasn't until people started dying that I got, that had emotional life, making me feel one way or the other. It wasn't until people started dying, because I become desensitized from all this shit. I literally was going to jail, rehabs, and institutions every 5 years, from the age of 15 to the age of 30-something. I literally could not stay out of jail, rehabs, and institutions. I just couldn't, for whatever reason. I keep getting in trouble. Shit keep happening to me. And it wasn't till recently, till I was much older, till I started to get a grasp and an understanding for these things, okay? I look at it in like a spiritual sense. I've mentioned it before. A lot of this stuff, a lot of this, like ADD, for instance, schizophrenia, a lot of this is a mental disability, and it's also an attribute, a mental helpful ability. Like, people will say the schizophrenics, they talk to people, they have, friends or whatever that are really not there. Well, there's a direct correlation, believe it or not, but these people are a little more connected to the spiritual realm. You can look at it, you can call me a liar, you can look at it from one way or another, just how I've seen it. I've explained my coincidences, why I believe in God, my craziest coincidence. So, the things that have happened to me in my life, coincidental wise, just don't make no sense. Just doesn't add up. I could literally be studying on something and thinking about something, and it will come to pass. It's happened a gazillion times in my life. Still happens to this day. I just coincidentally met Seth Ferrante, who I've just been conjuring up in my head that I'm going to meet him one day. I'm going to get to meet him. I'm going to meet him. I'm going to meet this guy Ryan Leone, and I'm going to meet this guy Sinister Monopoly. And so Seth came to town a couple weeks ago, and I met him. But that's like one out of 1,000 scenarios that I deal with on a bigger scale, if you will. And so a lot of the people that I've seen and that I know that have mental disabilities also have, pluses to those negatives. It's not all, they're not just 100% batshit crazy, and there's really no one there. There's someone there. There's a spirit there, okay? There's an energy force there. Do you follow what I'm saying? I can show you, for an example, animals, especially cats. That's why they were considered the guardians of the underworld. They can see. It's fact. Look it up. Look yourself. Before you go calling me a liar and a conspiracy theorists and all this, do your research, because I have. Cats can see and pick up vibrations. They can see and pick up and spirits, angels, demons. It's a fact. I have a picture with my cat on my shoulder, and she's looking up, and a friend of my wife's caught the picture and did something with the colorization, and you can see the outline of what's to be like an angel. My cat's always staring up in the sky. In our bedroom, my wife's steadily praying, steadily reading the Bible. So it's all these people, they're not just all crazy. My personal belief is they see and they are in a different vibration. They're seeing and speaking to, call it what you will, but there's something there. They're not just they're not just talking and seeing something that's really not there. Because there really is. Look it up. Look up devil worshipping. Look up black magic. Look up white magic. There's a reason that all the elites of this world are big into this shit. They're not into this because it's not real. They're not into this because it's bullshit. No, it's for real. There is a devil and there is a God, and any and everything in between. And the more that I've become in tune with myself and stayed away from hard drugs for the past 2 years, the better I'm getting. The more I can see, the more I'm led to see what I've been seeing all along, but labeled it my ADD and don't want no part of it. But now I've learned to accept it and use it and try to channel it. I've got enough coincidences. If you go back and count them up, I got enough coincidences that I can prove to you and give you the names and let you hear people's testimony that every one of them is not an exaggeration. It's exactly what I said it was. So see for yourself. Call me crazy. I call me to the next level. I'm getting to the next level. And I had to be a crazy to do it. So help me. I got nothing but the best intentions for kids just like me. I don't want any more kids to suffer like I've suffered. I don't want to see people suffer like my friend Aaron McDowell suffered. One of my best friends, Aaron McDowell, killed himself 6 months ago. This is what kicked me off. This is what started all this. One of my best friends, grew up with, in and out of ADD class, in and out of a mental institution after high school. He killed himself recently. That was enough, on top of all the friends and family that I've lost to mental health and to drug addiction. It's got to stop. And I start right here. This is Mike. I am ADD's advocate. I appreciate you all. Thank you for your time. Would you please subscribe, comment, like, share. Stay ADD.